the Mangusta family of helicopters in Warthunder. An interesting series of helicopters that are less known to the Warthunder community. Due to how challenging their lineup was, and still might be, a lot of people really didn't play it, and the premium ones are rarely even seen. But here's the question. How good or how bad are they in Warthunder? And most importantly, are they even worth the grind or your purchase? Hello ladies and gentlemen, my name is Bob Dickinson and welcome back to another Warthunder review. Today, we will be reviewing the Mangusta family of helicopters. But before we do that, let's talk about its history. Let's go back to the beginning, the late stages of the Cold War. Proposed by the Italian Army, the A129 was the first dedicated attack helicopter fully designed and built in Western Europe. The project began in 1978 and its final project was ready in only 1982. The A129 made its first official maiden flight on 15th of September 1983 at the Augusta Company Cascina Costa facilities. After many successful tests and positive feedback by the pilots, it was given the name Mangusta by the Italian Army and Augusta employees. This name was mainly chosen due to the fact that the A129 was a direct competitor of the Bell AH-1 Cobra, that at the time rivaled the Augusta project. And on a side note, the Mangusta, or mongoose, is known for its ease in killing poisonous snakes. And yes, including cobras. Later down the line, Augusta had generated a lot of interest for this type of helicopter. So, they developed a newer version of the A129 Mangusta in line with the export market specifications and demands. And so we have our first model, which is also in the game. The prototype of the International Mangusta, the A129 International prototype, which is removed from the stores and only available via Warthunder Wiki's test drive. Even after developing the international variant, no country wanted the helicopter. However, in 1986, the governments of Italy, Netherlands, Spain, and UK signed a memorandum of understanding to develop an improved version of the A129, called the Joint European Helicopter. The memorandum called for an overall improvement of the helicopter's engines, a new rotor system, retractable landing gear, better sensors, and more powerful weaponry. But the project collapsed in 1990, when Great Britain and Netherlands decided to go by the American AH-64s, while Spain opted for joint-made French-German Eurocopter Tiger. This, however, was not the end of the A129 International, as everything that had been learned from that version of the helicopter would actually be reutilized for an upgrade for the Italian Army's A129s. And this is the second Mangusta we can see in the game, the A129 CBT, or Combat. After many years and Mangusta operating in different theaters of war such as Iraq and Afghanistan, the Italian Army CBTs did not go out of service. Instead, another upgrade program was made which gave birth to the A129 Mangusta Delta. The Delta was presented in 2011. The D variant improves the armament and optics of the Mangusta and incorporating Israeli-made Spike fire and frigate ATGMs. And this is the third Italian Mangusta, the AH-129D. But then, this is where Turkey comes in. In March 2007, the Turkish government began negotiations with the Augusta Westland to jointly develop a new variant of the A129 Mangusta as a part of their attack program for the Turkish Air Force. The agreement finalized and signed in September 2007, which allowed Turkey to domestically produce the A129 airframe with several modifications being made to its avionics, weapon arsenal, as well as other electronic equipment. As a result, the Turkey was also allowed to export this domestic version to international third-party operators. This Turkish modification then received the designation T129 Atak, and even its armaments are locally made by Turkey. Sponsored by Kanuni Sultan Süleyman. But enough of history, class. Let's talk about its armors and modules. Welcome to the Armor and Modular Protection Analysis, where we basically analyze the armors and modules inside of a vehicle. Today's helicopters are the Mangusta series of helicopters. As always, the first thing that we need to take a look at is the crew. This helicopter has a standard tandem cockpit with the pilot sitting in the rear and the gunner situated at the front. Now, here are some minor differences between each model and I'll try my best to explain it to you in the best way possible. Now, all of these helicopters have CCIP on all of their weapons, including rockets, cannons, alongside EEGS for the turret. The CBT and international prototype have the same optic zoom, while the AH129 and the Turkish variant have 27 and 29.9 times zoom, respectively. All of these helicopters do in fact have night vision and thermals, which Gaijin forgot to mention in the crew section, and I did not notice it until I went and checked in the modules. Gaijin, the international does not show it to me. To hell with that. All of these helicopters, with the exception of the T129 Attack, have a fully fledged out AN/APR-39 radar warning receiver. They all feature an IRSD auto tracker, including SPI and LDR, RALM101 laser warning receivers, and regarding protection, all of these helicopters have IRCM, and except for the international prototype, all of them have 90 countermeasures. And last but not least, both AH129D and T129 Attack have an AN/AAR-60 missile approach warning system. These helicopters have two self-sealing fuel tanks with these fuel presets. All these helicopters have standard fuel presets. They have decent amount of fuel, and overall they might even have slightly better fuel consumption than the average. And the engines are not really that fuel hungry. And speaking of its engines, these helicopters have several different engines. The Prototype International has LHTEC CTS 800-2 with 110 kgf, while the Turkish one has the 4A variant. And of course, the A and Delta variants both have the Rolls-Royce Gem 2 1004 Delta. And I'm gonna be honest with you, they all feel the same. You see, here's a problem with the Mangusta. They might look like they perform like your stereotypical helicopter in regards to its maneuverability, but it really does not make a lot of sense. I'm not sure what is the problem, whether if it's the problem with the engines or blades, but the helicopter feels way too heavy when it comes to overall stopping or pulling out your helicopter. It feels like the helicopter is trying its best to pull itself up, but it either does not have enough power or the blades are not doing good enough of a job. But either way, you have to watch out that whenever you dive and level your helicopter, please expect to lose a lot of altitude or taking a lot of time than usual to stop. At the end, you have the two oil cooling systems positioned at the front of the relatively big and nicely modeled transmission, traction of the control surfaces, and prop shafts. Now let's get on with the armaments that these helicopters have. With the first one being the Hydra 70 rocket pods, installed on the A129 International prototype and the CBT variant and the AH129D, and the FZ-49 heat rockets on the Turkish T129 Attack. And for good measure, we will also include the FN RMP LC cannon pods with 3 Mighty Mouse rockets each, installed on the inner pylons, giving you 6 rockets total. I will explain the gun pods a little bit further. The Hydras are good rockets with decent explosive mass, penetration, and a very nice range. The Mighty Mouse rockets are exactly the same, but with a bit of a worse speed and range. The FZ-49 rockets are made by the Belgian company 4G Zeeburger? What in the hell is that word? In the game, this rocket has slightly worse stats than the Mighty Mouse rockets, say 10 grams of difference between its explosive mass, albeit the FZ-49 having a lot more penetration. Overall, these rockets will not disappoint you. They are reliable and can do their job. Now let's get on with the ATGMs, with the first one being the BGM-71C ITO and the BGM-71D TOW-2 missiles, installed on the outer pylons, giving you 8 total, with the ITO being available on the A129 CBT and the TOW-2 on both A129 CBT and its international prototype variant. As I said on my AH-1 Cobra video, the TOW missiles are wire-guided ATGMs that are nothing special compared to its rival ATGMs such as Sturm or even Ataka missiles at this BR. At this BR, they have a somewhat decent penetration and explosive mass with a somewhat of a low range, with the TOW-2 missile being a major upgrade in regards to everything except for the range itself. Which at this BR, it might be a little bit dangerous, but still, the TOW-2 missiles are pretty decent. Up next, we have the AGM-114B Hellfires, installed on all of the A129s except for the Turkish variant. The B model of the Hellfires are pretty nice. They have nice amount of penetration and explosive mass, and they're quite fast and have a top attack flight path. Unfortunately, this is the best guided ATGM the Italians get, and you won't go further than the B variants of the Hellfires. This causes a lot of problems with the A129 Delta Mangusta. Having the K variant of the Hellfires at this BR would be much better due to the amount of ERA you will see at top tier. I will talk about the Delta Mangusta and its usage of B Hellfires a bit further into this video. Up next is the Turkish exclusive laser-guided UMTAS installed on the Turkish T129 Attack. Now this ATGM has a lot of great things. It has a very nice penetration, decent amount of explosive mass, and of course a very nice range. However, there is only one problem that makes it one of the slowest missiles in the entire game. It has a speed slower than the early SS-11 missiles. The problem with the speed of this is that usually helicopter engagements at top tier are quite long range, and when your missile is that slow, firing that 6 kilometers away will be taking a lot of time. So it's gonna be like either the target is dead or you're dead first. I mean, I understand that these missiles are still classified in Turkey, but Jesus Christ, Gaijin. If their missile is that slow, why wouldn't they just, I don't know, use the Stone Age Hellfire Bs? But yeah, overall the speed is really lacking with this ATGM. And the final guided missile, the Rokitsan 70mm CIRIT, or Cirit air-to-ground missile. It's in fact a guided rocket, 4 installed on each pylon, giving you 16 of them. These missiles will be your workhorse on the Turkish attack. Since the UMTAS disappointed you with its speed, these guys on the other hand have a great speed and penetration and relatively low amount of explosive mass. And the range is still fairly nice. These are the guided rockets that the US APKWS users wish they received. I mean, come on Gaijin, I know they would have been OP, but you gave us the HEM-151 warhead of the APKWS instead of the standard M247? Come on Gaijin, at least give us the 19-pod variant, man, Jesus Christ. But overall, the Cirit missiles respond and feel much faster and much better than the APKWS-2s. But yeah, make sure to try them out, although you have to aim for the enemy weak spots in order to make it much more effective. And last but not least, the Spike ER Fire and Forget missile installed on the new AH-129D Mangusta. Now these missiles are both good and bad at the same time. Good because it's fire and forget and you can RTB once you fire all of them, and has nice penetration and 1 kilometer extra range than the Pars 3 LR. They are tandem charged, and on the Italian helis, they give a much better and new experience compared to whatever you had on the B Hellfires. Bad because it's as slow as the UMTAS, so at higher range it's more unreliable. They have low amount of explosive mass, they loft into the atmosphere, and they're fire and forget, so they hit the center mass of the designated target almost all the time. But overall, it feels like a nice upgrade compared to your B variant of the Hellfires, especially in heli PvE. And just so you know, the Israeli Apache, and yes, including the Zephyr D/E, could also carry them too. Now let's get on with the air-to-air missiles, with the AIM-92 Stingers and Mistral, with the Stinger being available on the Turkish Attack, AH-129D and the CBT, and the Mistrals being only exclusive to the Italian Mangustas except for the international prototype. The AIM-92 Stinger feels like your basic manpad with nice pull and lock range and incredible flare resistance. However, the proxy fuse just most of the times does not want to work. The Mistral, on the other hand, is the better version of the Stingers. They are more reliable with regards to their proxy fuse, pull much better and harder and have more missile guidance time, have almost twice the explosive mass, and overall it feels much more comfortable to carry them compared to the Stingers. And finally, let's go with the cannons and machine guns that these helicopters can carry. Two 12.7mm FN3 MP machine guns, and the machine guns with 3 Mighty Mouse rockets on each pod, installed on 2 inner pylons on all the Italian Mangustas. To be honest, I'm not even sure if they're worth it. I mean, sure, if it was on the A109 or the BO105, maybe it is, because those guys don't have any kind of air-to-air missiles or chinned turrets. These guys, on the other hand, do actually have it, but still, I wouldn't really understand why you would mount it anyways. Up next are the chin-mounted turrets, with the international variant having a chinned 12.7mm machine gun, the same FN3 guns found in the gun pods we were talking about a bit earlier, and of course the TM197B cannons, installed on the Turkish T129 Attack, AH129D and its CBT version. Now, the TM197 cannon is essentially the same cannon found on the AH-1F and AH-1Z, with the difference being that the ammo belt is situated on the side of the aircraft, and it goes across the helicopter. So don't be surprised if your cannon is damaged more frequently than usual. Now let's get on with the mobility. When it comes to the mobility of this thing, it's not the usual helicopter you might expect. I mean, sure, it might behave like one, but the devil's in the details. If you do rapid maneuvers and don't manage your collective pitch, the engines will stall for 2 seconds and immediately back up, and depending on how you recover it. And it just feels unusual to do rapid maneuvers on it as well. When you do dives or stop really quickly and want to recover, the helicopter feels really heavy for its engine or blades, and it takes a lot more time to get into a stationary position. Despite having only 5 tons of takeoff weight, the climb rate is absolutely butchered as well. The pitch control is normal, the yaw control is decent, and the roll rate is very nice. Overall, the top speed is like a normal helicopter. It's fast, and it feels good to pilot around. And overall, it's pretty workable if you get the grips of it. Now let's get on with the final verdicts. Welcome to the final verdict. In this section of the video, we're going to talk about which models of these helicopters are worth the grind, and should you spade them or not. But before I start, I just want to state the situation on the Italian helicopters. The Italian helicopters are one of the hardest helicopter trees to grind, mainly because the starter helicopter has very few armaments and those do not allow you to do a lot of work. And for a new player, 14 rockets are not gonna do a lot of things. So using a premium helicopter is highly recommended, and for this helicopter tree you have 3 options. The Hungarian Mi-24P, the T129 Attack, and last but not least, the A129 International prototype. This helicopter is not available for purchase and it has several problems that must be mentioned. The machine gun is not really that effective. You don't have air-to-air missiles to carry, and your optic zoom is quite low. But if you compare it to the vehicles like the G-Lynx, it will be a somewhat of a decent pickup. And honestly, I would prefer to get the Hungarian Mi-24P. It literally has everything you need. Maybe the mobility, the lack of thermals, or a chin turret might be a problem, but overall in regards to its armaments, it is much more capable. Verdict for the A129 International prototype, it is not recommended. But if you really like it, feel free to purchase it once it's available. Up next is the Italian A129 CBT. This helicopter is a nice upgrade compared to the previous Mi-24V, or whatever A109 tried to be. You get the Hellfire missiles, much better mobility, thermals, actual cannons, Mistrals, and all the bells and whistles. But the problem is that this and the international prototype have this weird BR where Italy has no proper lineups, I guess? I don't know, I'm not a ground RB player to be honest, especially in Italy. But overall, getting it and spading it is going to be optional, but I would recommend it for heli PvE, as you can use the Hellfires to destroy the enemy Rolands easier. And you don't have to rely on the 6 kilometers of range these Sturm missiles had on the previous Mi-24. And you can fire and guide multiple of them without having any kind of issue. The next one is the Turkish T129 Attack. Now, if you're a Turkish citizen or have a Turkish passport or just love Turkey in general, I have a special message to you.
Her Türkiye felderesinin bir helikopter sahip Üsmariye ölündür. Bahane yük. Allah Türkiye'nin salavı...
What the fuck is that word? I very much apologize to every single Turkish viewer for the, ramblings. The T129 Attack is a somewhat decent premium that, if you know how to make it work, it can be fun. Yes, sure, the Lumtas are not fast enough. Sure, it has no radar warning receiver. But it does have thermals, serviceable amount of countermeasures, and a missile approach warning system. And the Seared missiles are not as bad as you might think. You can also try it out the Lumtas if you're patient. And I'm desperately waiting for Gaijin to add either the Fire and Forget version of the Lumtas or give it its proper speed it really deserved. Verdict, I would say it's optional. Of course, it's not an easy helicopter to play. But let's be honest, if you get the Mi-24P, yeah, it might be easier to grind, but I'm sure that it will definitely not resemble the top-tier Italian helicopter experience. If you want to get the AH-129D, this will give you a little bit of a taste of what it feels like. Take a test drive and see how it behaves and moves, and if you liked it, you can pick it up. And last but not least, the final boss, the AH-129D. Now at this point, I wanted to go out and dog on this helicopter and tell you, haha, Italian helicopters, pain, worst tree, and all these kind of bullshit and stuff, but now that I look at it, it's not really that bad. For example, comparing it to the Eurocopter Tigers, the Delta feels a bit more reliable. Of course, carrying the B variant of the Hellfires is not going to be a great alternative choice. But look at the UHT or the Tiger Hat Block 2. They have only 2 major pylons that they can carry their heavy ATGMs with the UHT being only able to carry air-to-air missiles on its outer pylons. And the French one carries only 24 SNIP Type 23 rockets, which are not bad. It's just that if you ever played the Eurocopter helicopters, you do realize that they have a threshold. The pylon and armament placement really limits them heavily. The German UHT players can actually relate to this. You can either take 2 Mighty Mouse rockets, or 8 Hot 3s, or 8 Pars 3 LRs. Yes, your optics are way better than the Delta Mangusta, but you don't have the most basic thing that most helicopters have in top tier, and that's a chin turret. And let's say that you don't want to use the fire and forget missiles on the UHT and you want to use a manually guided missile, cause Pars 3s always hit the center mass and not the weak spots. Your best bet is going to be Hot 3 missiles, which recently they buffed them to like 4.4 kilometers range, but for top tier that is not really that good. The Delta Mangusta helicopter can not only carry 8 ATGMs, which are B Hellfires and Spiky Rs, but also they can carry 12.7mm machine guns and Hydro rockets alongside their ATGMs. Sure, the Pars 3 LRs are faster missiles, and the French Hat Block 2 can get the K variants of the Hellfires with SNIPs, and yes, the Eurocopters handle better. But still, there is a major difference between 22 SNIPs and 38 Hydra 70s. There are so many things for me to discover on the Eurocopter Tigers, and I will try my best to make a video on them in the future, but for now, the Delta Mangusta is decent in ground RP and gives you a fresh experience in heli PvE once you get the Spiky R missiles. Verdict? Get it and spade the hell out of it. I started this video looking at the Mangusta helicopters as the boring and painful heli tree, but once I got deeper, things got more interesting. They might not have anything special, but each and every single one of them did not disappoint me. Ladies and gentlemen, this was pretty much it for today's video. If you enjoyed it, maybe you can join my membership or give a super thanks. Like the video and subscribe to my channel. This is me, Bob Dickinson, and thank you for watching.